Let's hold some feet to the fire here and examine what food companies have actually done versus what they've promised when it comes to removing artificial dyes from their products. Because if you look at the track record, it's a story of grand announcements, missed deadlines, and corporate backtracking that should make consumers deeply skeptical of industry self-regulation. Over the past 15 years or so, multiple major food manufacturers made public commitments to remove artificial colors from some or all of their product lines. These pledges were typically made in response to consumer pressure, advocacy campaigns, or the threat of regulatory action. They generated positive press coverage and temporarily mollified concerned parents. But when you audit what actually happened, the picture gets pretty ugly. Some companies did follow through, to their credit. A few manufacturers successfully reformulated major product lines to use natural colors, though often with limitations. They might remove dyes from products sold in Europe while continuing to use them in identical American products, or remove them from their flagship brands while keeping them in value brands, or phase them out from some product categories while maintaining them in others. The corporate social responsibility reports are fascinating documents to analyze because the language is so carefully crafted to sound like progress while often describing very limited changes. A company might tout that it removed artificial colors from 20% of its children's product portfolio and frame this as a major achievement, while conveniently not mentioning that 80% of their products still contain these additives. Historical ingredient lists tell the real story. When you compare what products contained 10 years ago to what they contain now, many haven't changed at all despite repeated corporate pledges. Some companies that initially reformulated actually reversed course and added dyes back when they found sales dropped due to the different appearance. These backtrack decisions rarely get the same press attention as the original pledges. Inside sources from product development teams, speaking anonymously of course, describe the intense internal pressure to keep costs down and maintain visual appeal at any cost. They talk about reformulation projects that were greenlight and then quietly shelved when financial projections came back unfavorable. They describe marketing departments overruling nutrition and R&D teams who wanted to make products healthier. The brand compliance data is revealing. Companies with stronger brand equity and more affluent target consumers were more likely to follow through on dye removal because their customers were willing to pay slightly more and were demanding cleaner labels. Companies targeting price-sensitive consumers with lower-cost products were far more likely to break their promises because they feared losing price competitive advantage. This creates a two-tier food system where wealthier children increasingly eat products without artificial dyes while lower-income children continue consuming them. Consumer advocates point to this pattern as evidence that voluntary corporate action doesn't work. Without binding regulations or serious financial consequences for failing to meet pledges, companies make promises they don't intend to keep, using them purely as public relations tools. Some advocacy groups have started naming and shaming companies with the worst track records, publishing compliance scorecards that track pledges versus actual reformulation. The pattern is clear. Public pressure and regulatory threat do influence corporate behavior, but only when sustained. The minute attention moves elsewhere, commitments evaporate. Some companies are better actors than others, and consumers who care about this issue should reward the ones that actually follow through with their purchasing choices. But the broader lesson is that structural change requires structural solutions. Voluntary corporate action will never be sufficient to protect public health when it conflicts with short-term profits.